Do you know what makes me so hopeful about The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD coming to Switch? The fact that they are both already real. HD enhanced versions of these two classic 3D Zelda games already exist on Nintendo Wii U. During the current generation, one in which we've seen more Wii U ports than I can count on both my hands, doesn't it seem strange we've yet to see either of these? It's been clear this entire generation, Nintendo wants to bring their best Wii U games over to the more successful Switch. But if that was indeed the case, don't you think these Zelda games would be two of the first off the board? In today's video, we're going to be talking about why porting The Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD to Switch isn't as simple as we may think, due to some changes that would need to be made to the Wii U versions to have them work properly on Switch, and why, because of some external circumstances, the time just hasn't been right to release them, until now. If you're new to the channel, then let me just say, here I'm constantly talking about Nintendo. I strive to share the joy of Nintendo games, from the new releases to the classics, and discuss them all with others like myself who can't get enough Nintendo in their daily lives. If that sounds good to you, then you're welcome to check out my content, maybe as something Nintendo related to listen to between games. If for no other reason, The Wind Waker and Twilight Princess need to come to Switch because people really love these games. If you couldn't already guess from the video's title, I'd buy them both again in a heartbeat. And I'm not alone. I can recall so many conversations with people over the years when we've talked about how fondly we remember these games. Even in a series as wide and as well loved as The Legend of Zelda, these two stand out as some of the most popular titles. I think part of it is that they're some of the least divisive 3D Zelda titles. Even The Wind Waker. Many people had mixed feelings about the cartoonish art style when it first came out, but it's still reviewed extremely well, and was considered one of the best adventure games of the time. And over the years, people's appreciation for it has only grown. Ironically enough, it's probably now the very best aging 3D Zelda game, at least from a visual standpoint. And that's due to the very same cel-shaded art style that people criticized back then. Twilight Princess is pretty much the polar opposite. Yeah, there's the whole Wolf Link transformation thing, but its darker tone and classic Zelda tropes make it more of the answer to Ocarina of Time that many wanted. The beginning of the game is very slow, and it has its fair share of tedious quests, but beyond that, there really isn't much to complain about with Twilight Princess either. Many call it their favorite Zelda game, and others might just be nostalgic since it came out during their childhood. Either way, there's no denying that it's an impressive adventure game that would be a blast to revisit on Switch. And this is the key issue. The Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD need to come to Switch because people will always want to play them. They're classic titles that are revisited time and time again. But unless you own a Wii U, or maybe even still have the original hardware, you're not able to play them right now. And with this as reason number one, it makes all the sense in the world to re-release them. But the benefits don't end there. Wind Waker or Twilight Princess HD coming to Switch would almost certainly be a good financial decision on Nintendo's end too. I say it a bit tongue-in-cheek in the title of this video, but releasing these games on Switch would be some of the easiest money they'd ever make. Let's put it this way, if Skyward Sword HD is selling almost 5 million on the Switch, I'd bet that both Wind Waker and Twilight Princess would at the very least pass that bar. Skyward Sword doesn't appear to be remembered nearly as fondly, and even that game is selling well on Switch. Due to nothing more than popularity and the fond memories of the fanbase, it's not a stretch to imagine either of the GameCube Zeldas getting close to or even surpassing 10 million units sold. And this isn't even to mention, these games would take considerably less development work than Skyward Sword HD probably did. Remember, that was a game on the base Nintendo Wii, a standard definition console that had a completely unique motion-based control scheme. Compare that to the HD versions of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess we already have on Wii U. Those could basically be ported over one-to-one. But as I said in the intro to the video, there are some changes that will have to be made if these games are being ported over to the Switch. First, talking about Wind Waker HD, I think this one needs a bit more work done on it than Twilight Princess. Mainly, this has to do with the Miiverse features. For those not familiar, Miiverse was a social network type message board on Wii U and 3DS that players could post on, and oftentimes there was Miiverse functionality in Nintendo's first-party games. Both Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD have Miiverse features, but Wind Waker used them to a greater extent. Obviously, Miiverse is no longer, so these features would have to be removed or changed. For Wind Waker HD in particular, rather than removing them, how about instead Nintendo got creative and gave the Tingle Bottle new functionality? Instead of finding Tingle Bottles with Miiverse messages in them, make it something a bit simpler, but still provides that feeling of online connectivity. How about if you choose to connect your game to the internet, you'll start finding Tingle Bottles across the Great Sea. And inside, there could be a custom greeting, not necessarily tied to Miiverse, or even just a rupee reward. Then you'll be able to view a screen showing how many Tingle Bottles you've collected and the name of each player it's from. And if they wanted to take it a step further, maybe you'll occasionally find a special Tingle Bottle from another player, and by collecting it, you'll get a mark on your sea chart. You can then use the grappling hook at those coordinates to pull up a special reward. And that's just one simple example of how the Wii U version of Wind Waker HD could be changed to work on Switch. Another change could be adding amiibo support, and I could see it working similarly to how it does in Twilight Princess HD. Certain amiibo could grant free health refills and help top you off on consumables like arrows or the magic meter. As I mentioned, Twilight Princess HD on Wii U also has Miiverse support, but overall, there's less going on than in the Wind Waker HD. The only Wii U exclusive thing that would really need to be removed is Miiverse stamps. They could take the easy route and simply strip out the stamp chests and make them rupee rewards instead. But I think it would be more fun if we could keep the stamps and instead be able to use them in a photo mode, just like how Super Mario 3D World handled it when that game was brought to Switch. The biggest change I envision being added to Twilight Princess HD on Switch isn't even really a change at all. Rather, it would be added functionality and customization to go the extra mile and really honor all the past versions of Twilight Princess. They could potentially add in a toggle to the options menu, which could swap from the GameCube style button controls to the motion controls the Nintendo Wii version of the game had. Twilight Princess HD on the Wii U lacks the motion-controlled swordplay of the Wii version, but a new Switch version could pay homage to that control style by using the Joy-Con controllers. In addition to the new input, this toggle would shift Link's sword over to his right hand, and you will probably just need to save the game and be reloaded in the same area so that the game's perspective can be flipped. In this way, the Switch version could be the ultimate version of Twilight Princess, in which players would be able to choose the control scheme they like best. Lastly, I'd probably add in the Cave of Shadows standard with this re-release, and not locked behind the Link Wolf amiibo. The unlock for the Wolf Link amiibo should be changed to something else worthwhile though, since it held such a big secret before. All of the other amiibo unlocks can stay the same, and I think this version of Twilight Princess HD would be good to go. As you can see, the idea of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD coming over to Switch makes a lot of sense. It's actually a bit surprising at least one of them hasn't made its way over already. But if you think about it from a timing perspective, it kinda makes sense. The Switch launched with a big new Zelda in Breath of the Wild, and the original Twilight Princess HD had only come out 1 year before that. Post Breath of the Wild, it then made sense to work on Skyward Sword, since that game was next in line and had yet to receive a remaster. By the time Skyward Sword HD was completed and launched, Tears of the Kingdom was only a few years away. But now that Tears of the Kingdom is behind us, and we know that the game isn't receiving DLC updates, the Zelda slate is now clear. We know we're not getting a new game in the series anytime soon, making a Wind Waker or Twilight Princess HD re-release on Switch a real possibility. If we eventually got both of these games on Switch, that is for sure the ideal scenario. If you count the 2 N64 games available on Nintendo Switch Online, then that would make it so every 3D Zelda game is playable on Nintendo Switch, and that's a future I want to see. I've seen the idea floating around for a dual pack featuring both Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD on one cartridge, and I can't deny that would be nice. They're both GameCube-era Zelda games, and they represent a sort of duality in tone. Wind Waker has that bright, cartoonish aesthetic, while Twilight Princess has a grittier and more mature tone. The two would nestle together nicely in a package, but as nice as it would be, I don't think it's happening. As the title of this video suggests, I see these games releasing one at a time for full price. And where I am in the United States, that's $60. I also think if they both come to Switch, their releases will be spread out. This is because, even on their own, they are major releases that will no doubt get people excited. They can both be used in a different time period to pad out Nintendo's release calendar in any lighter months. Plus, they wouldn't want to release them close to one another anyways, because if they were too close, they could cannibalize each other's sales. If Nintendo is gearing up toward next gen soon, then both of these Zelda games could be less development-intensive titles that could help pad out the release schedule of the Switch before the next console arrives. And releasing these two Zelda games makes even more sense if the new system is backwards compatible, since releasing them for Switch, even if it's a console that's going to be aging out, we could still play them on the new hardware, and getting as many of the Zelda games over there as possible is never a bad idea. But what do you think? Would you be interested in seeing The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker or Twilight Princess HD come to Switch? Do you think we'll see them come this year, or maybe sometime next year? Will they come to the current Switch, or will they end up landing on Nintendo's next-gen console? Let me know your thoughts and opinions about it down in the comment section below. Thanks as always for watching everyone, and I'll see you all in the next video.